Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of the Woo Pig Podcast where we're talking about everything Arkansas Razorback football and basketball every day of the week. And you know me, I'm your host, OD Oliver. And before we get into the video, we bringing something special back today.
I'm a hog. 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 You can tell by the way that we ball. I'm a hog. Look at my phone, you see 50 missed calls. I'm a hog. Always winning, we can't settle for a loss. I'm a hog. The natural shit coming straight out of Arkansas. I'm a hog. From Little Rock, Pine Bluff down the bend. I'm a hog. We break bread with Sam Walton in the clean. I'm a hog. We go hard. This where the hogs at. Representing the stands, chilling, wearing our hog hat. I'm a hog.
Down in the rock sports, yeah, we big on it. I mean, we live on it, and we put our kids on it. You need some.
I had to bring that back today, man, for this special episode, man. And before we jump into it, you know who I got in the building.
Yo, you got your boy G Holmes in the building, aka Big Sexy, man. Y'all still hollering for me.
Oh my God.
And always, you got the bad little brother in the building.
Yes, sir. Woo Pig Deezy, all caps.
And today we have a special guest on the pod that does great work covering the SEC, but they tell me he a diehard LSU fan.
That's what they say.
He got a YouTube channel called the LSU, where he represents LSU all day, every day. But he also covers the SEC as well. Hey, welcome to the pod, man. Welcome, Carter the Power. Thank you for coming in, kicking it with us.
Welcome, baby.
Welcome.
I thought at first DZ said "woo pig" something else at first, and I was like, "Dang!" I was laughing so hard at that.
Nah, I had a
like,
little stutter, man. You know, when
Yeah,
I
no,
see
I was
when the enemy get close, I get to shaking.
I was like, "Wait, do you walk up to ladies at the bar saying you want some of this woo pig?" But here's my thing. Okay, so you did the who did the opening song? Which artist is that?
It's G. You know it better than me.
It's a group called
Young Hogs.
Young Hogs.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're from Little Rock, and man, they just kind of fell off the map. They were, I mean, this song, man, was back in like 07.
Oh, really?
We got a little bit of spin, but then they just fell off, went away. You know what I'm saying? And I had that song on my iTunes for years and years because I played it at tailgates and everything.
Yeah.
But it kind of died. So we resurrected this song in 2023, man. And the Spotify views have gone way up and the downloads and everything. So, but, you know, so we used that song and we tried to reach out to them, but I don't even know if these cats are even around anymore. You know what I'm saying?
That is so great, man. It went in though. I think the only I didn't hear El Dorado mentioned, and I hold down for the 870, man. The Daniel Gaffords, the Bijan Jacksons, the Terry Hamptons, and now Cameron Bibby is a walk-on receiver for Arkansas. So yeah, I'm proud of my Wildcats. Proud of Union County, man. They're still Hog fans down there. So y'all don't forget about Union, man.
I know, right?
The biggest county in Arkansas, man. But it's good to be with you guys.
Yeah.
Man,
So
welcome.
So for those that may not know you, tell us like where you from. You know, how'd you become an LSU fan? Tell us all that.
Yeah, my whole family's from Baton Rouge, so I went to high school in Arkansas. But yeah, everybody is in Baton Rouge. So I've always been an LSU fan since birth. And I went to high school in Arkansas. I have a lot of friends that live throughout Arkansas still. My best man in my wedding, Curtis, he's in Conway, and All my buddies live in Fayetteville, so yeah, man, it's a great fan base. It's cool because growing up, you learned how different the Battle of the Golden Boot was for everybody, right? And Arkansas means everything to Arkansas fans. It is the biggest game of the season for most Razorback fans. And for LSU fans, it's not even a top 5 game. And I've always hated that imbalance. I hated that because both the fan bases shared a unique bond to their state, being the only Power 5 school in their state. So, as much as I wanted the Battle of the Golden Boot to be big and as great as a game and as close as a game has been most of the time, it sucks that it's going to get to a point where they're not playing each other every year.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Now
I'll tell you one. Oh, sorry, my bad. But one of the things I used to love about that LSU Arkansas is it always used to be the last game of the season. You remember that? And it was, and normally that win or loss meant something to both teams. It was either you're going to be qualifying for, a higher tier bowl, or either you're going to be in the national championship run, or, you know what I'm saying? It was always something that was, riding on that game, which made that game electric. No matter if it was in Little Rock, or if it was down in Baton Rouge, or if it was up on the hill, that meant something. And I just missed that, putting it in the middle of the season, what I'm saying, to the people that do the schedules, they don't care. But for,
Absolutely.
These two fan bases, man, it's always been a huge, huge game. So, man, I'm excited to play, man, and we just going to make it do what it do.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And look, I wish it mattered more to LSU fans. I really do. If there was a game that I wish it mattered more, it would be that. But yeah, now they forced the Missouri rivalry down your throats, and now they're forcing the Texas A&M rivalry down LSU's, which doesn't make any sense. Texas A&M's rival should always be Texas. They are, I hate Texas and Texas A&M so much. They really do. Like, they talk such a big game, but if they are joining the SEC, I would be pounding the table to play each other every year, but we still don't know that. So yeah, I hate it. And look, like you said, obviously I was in Tiger Stadium. It was my freshman year, the McFadden game, and that broke my heart. It really did. I mean, it knocked LSU out of the national championship game, and then it took some miracle results for LSU to get in. And you're right. There's a lot of history in this game, but for some reason, this actually is going to help Arkansas, I think, some this weekend. Now that Arkansas lost this game to BYU, this becomes the biggest game of the season now for Arkansas.
It does.
Right? It really does. And LSU might be in a little bit of a look-ahead spot because, if before the game Ole Miss beats Alabama, that's going to pretty much guarantee game day is going to Oxford the next week. So LSU might be in a little bit of a look-ahead spot here, and it could be very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the pod, I got to ask you one more question. How'd you get into content creation with your two podcasts, your two YouTube channels you got?
Yeah, so I had always grown up listening to Stuart Scott. That's who I loved and adored. That was the only guy I wanted to be growing up, because I knew pretty quickly that I wasn't athletic. I'm still super slow. I was super slow in high school. But I played all 4 sports, played AAU, all that stuff. And I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to do sports broadcasting. And it was mainly because of him. And I went to sports broadcasting, got a radio show on LSU's campus. And a few radio stops here and there led me into YouTube. I saw that YouTube was the future. And then once YouTube really started popping off, I left the radio station that I was at, and now it's kind of the rest is history. So yeah, man, still growing, still taking in new opportunities, and still trying to make the full-time dream something that I really, really want to do.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's get into it. Now, I thought we would have way more smoke for you, but right now we ain't got no smoke. Well, we gonna keep the rivalry going here on the Woo Pig podcast, man. So my first question: do you agree with the line? 18 points, 18.5 points.
No, my projections actually have it in 10.5, 11 region. It's interesting. A lot of the analytical projection people that are way smarter than me have the game around 12, 13. And I haven't seen really one model that has LSU better than 15. That doesn't mean LSU's not going to win the game. I think that they will. It's just I think Arkansas is going to come back and play really strong. You know, obviously, as you guys know, I do a lot of film studies on Arkansas. One of the most fascinating things about Arkansas is when I started the SEC channel, I did not think that Arkansas content would kill all the other teams. And I've done content on all the other teams. Just Arkansas stuff really just goes crazy. So it's good you guys are doing this. Keep doing it. And I watched the BYU game pretty closely, obviously doing a film study on basically every play. And I do not necessarily think Arkansas just played horrible. They had a better success rate on a per play basis versus BYU. And ultimately it came down to KJ Jefferson just making some untimely mistakes and your offensive line completely forgetting how to play football. I have never seen this in my life. They were on their ass a lot. And that's not a good sign. You know, that's a sign of fatigue. That's a sign of some of that's mental, some of that's physical, obviously. And they just withered. And that was crazy to me. And yeah, it looked like all of them got Anderson Silva kicked in the face. Like they were just it was crazy. It was absolutely wild. And, you know, I do film studies on mostly LSU, but now Arkansas. And I look at, you know, other games and I look to see who's winning that trench battle. And that ultimately is to me what caused Arkansas to lose that game versus BYU. So, you know, I do think this game is going to be competitive. I do. And it's not necessarily because I think Arkansas is really that great of a team. They're obviously very limited. It's pretty easy to see that. But I think they're going to come out with a vengeance and really fight for their season in this game.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Y'all want to take the next question, guys?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say, with the news of what's going on with Greg Brooks Jr., I just want to send prayers and love to his family. That's some terrible news to get. For anybody that don't remember Greg Brooks, you know, he spent, I believe 2 seasons here with us and then transferred back home to LSU. And he's been doing pretty good out there until he just had some really bad luck on the medical side. So prayers to his family, definitely. But you want to elaborate on that?
Go on.
Okay. Well, aside from that, I just wanted to say that first. This has nothing to do with that. But as a team that kind of needs a little hope this week, or I'm not gonna say hope because that's still a bad way to look at it. I guess I'm gonna just ask: do y'all have any other key players that are out? Any you know what I'm saying? Any type of sporadic injuries that happen this week that might be able to, I don't know, give us a little hope on this Arkansas side.
Yeah, LSU's a little banged up. I think the key is their tight end. LSU's tight end is Mason Taylor. Really good player. He is the son of Jason Taylor, and he can really play. So, you know, Luke Haas, right, the true freshman tight end for Arkansas, essentially him and Mason Taylor are near carbon copies of each other. They're very similar players. So think about what Luke Haas has done for Arkansas's offense. That's essentially what Mason has done for LSU's offense, and he didn't play versus Mississippi State. So that's probably the biggest. Obviously, Greg's a big loss, and then there's some other guys. Omar Spate's a transfer linebacker who's been in and out. But for the most part, LSU's key guys are healthy. Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, number 5 and number 8. Those are 2 players you're probably most familiar with. And obviously the guy that most Arkansas fans fear the most is Harold Perkins. And he's fully healthy. And this is kind of a good or bad thing if you look at it from an Arkansas lens. The first thing is Perkins really hasn't had one of those kinds of games yet this year. Okay, so you can look at it as 2 ways. Number 1, he's about to go off. You can only keep an elite transcendent player down for so long. Or number 2, maybe he's struggling. He's had to play a new position, and now they're moving him back to what he's good at. So obviously with Arkansas's offensive line being the way that it is right now, you should be very concerned in pass protection because LSU's front, outside of Harold Perkins, is really, really, really good.
Yep.
Then look at Ken Ray. Ken Ray talking out of line here. Can't wait till KJ truck. Ken, man. Scoot back off the camera, man. That selfie was like right there. And God, you coming in talking high. You want to know something interesting though? Is and this is separate from any allegiance that you might have to Arkansas or my allegiance to LSU. My favorite SEC player, not on LSU, is KJ Jefferson. I collect his cards. I have some of his cards right here. And I'm a huge fan of his because he reminds me a lot of, obviously, Jaden. They do a lot for their teams. But KJ has a heavier load on his shoulders each and every week. And look, I love him. I really do because I've always been a fan of athletes that you don't have to coddle. Like I always hate it when people talk about certain quarterbacks or certain athletes where they're like, well, if only he had better play calling or only if he had this or only if he wasn't hurt or anything like that. KJ's overcome so much as the Arkansas quarterback. And I think a lot of fans outside the SEC really don't understand what all this guy has done. And what's very interesting to me is, I'm surprised this hadn't gotten more national love. There are, I think there was over 40 year 5, year 6 quarterbacks. And KJ Jefferson is the only year 5 or year 6 quarterback who is starting in the Power 5 who is still with his original team. Okay. So KJ not transferring, not going anywhere else, not even like putting it out there that he wanted to go somewhere else. That's not normal because you look throughout college football and you look at some of the best quarterbacks throughout college football. Every single one of them that went to a new stop, it ended up being the right decision for them. Okay. So Bo Nix, Sam Hartman, Michael Penix, who looks like the best quarterback, not named Caleb Williams right now. So KJ sticking with his original team, not really flirting with the NFL, not really doing all this, lost his offensive coordinator. This guy has carried this program. And I've never really look, he is a flawed quarterback. He's not the perfect quarterback. We saw this past weekend versus BYU. Sometimes, on the film, he was trying to do way too much, and it really hurt Arkansas this past weekend. And obviously, we have this situation where a lady on Snapchat's trying to clout chase him. Really? You're going to do this to the QB1 on the hill? And I was like, don't talk out of line, man. This is KJ freaking Jefferson, man. And I freaking adore him. And I hope he stays healthy, and I hope he goes to my New Orleans Saints next year.
Yeah. So we're going to take a question, man, from the Woo Pig, Hog Pen. What is LSU's biggest weakness that Arkansas could maybe exploit?
Hey, Tonka, I like the dog, man. I first want to point out that LSU secondary, even outside of Greg Brooks, has had issues. When you think LSU, you think secondary, right? You think about those battles that Tyrann Mathieu and Joe Adams had, back then. Mm-hmm. And those have always been fun battles. But LSU secondary had their best game this past weekend versus Mississippi State. And on top of that, where I think Arkansas has really struggled is the skill positions. Look, Isaac Tesla's a fine player. Armstrong's a fine player. They're great stories. But in Power 5 football, you should not be relying your number one option from Texas A&M Commerce and from Hillsdale. Where is Hillsdale even located? Hillsdale sounds like a failed show on the CW. I don't even know where that is. And I don't think Arkansas has enough on the outside to make LSU pay. I think if Arkansas still had Matt Landers, obviously, or someone like that, and Matt obviously turned out to be a really good player, that I would feel better from the Arkansas sides of things. But if Arkansas skill guys can step up and create more separation on the outside, they could get some explosives in this game.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, I think as Arkansas fans, we battle with that a lot because we really can't understand if it's a talent thing or if this is just a new offense with Dan Enos. Like we truly can't decide. I think that's the biggest battle, like within our fan base right now. Just is it the players not giving effort or not having enough talent, or is this just a new scheme with weird play calling that we really don't agree with? So I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And I think it's actually kind of in the middle. I'm not the biggest Enos guy. I'm not. But I will say the 2015 offense was a majestic offense to watch. But they have Brandon Allen. I mean, BA's turned out to be a lot better quarterback than people gave him credit for. Still, his truck getting burned down is still the most interesting story I've ever heard.
They was mad.
Dude, And I know someone that's really close with BA. There's so many stories from that I've heard. It's crazy. But yeah, Enos is obviously someone that's been in a lot of different places. I think it's some of that. I also think, and I know this is going to get me destroyed on your show, but from a film perspective, I think Kendall Briles was a little bit better than he got credit for. I think his red zone play calling got way too cute, and I think that's where he sucked the most. And I know he had hubris. He would think he's the smartest guy in the room, obviously. But you look last year, the one thing that Arkansas was really good at was a stat called rush yards before contact. And what that meant was the run schemes and the blocking up front would open up massive holes for Rocket Sanders and the running backs to run through. And as you guys have seen, you guys watch Arkansas more closely than I do. There's no holes. There's nowhere to go. And there's obviously a lot of schematic things I think you can do to potentially change that. But honestly, look, normally with the head coach, I love a CEO approach at the collegiate level from a head coach. I don't want my head coach to be too involved with play calling in college Power 5 football. But this is Pittman's guy, Enos. And the biggest issue with this team, as much as I talked about the receivers not getting separation, the biggest issue is the offensive line. They're struggling. They are really struggling right now. And I will say LSU's defensive line, if you thought BYU's defensive line was good, LSU's defensive line is way better. It's not even Harold Perkins. It's Mason Smith, who's a 5-star, who's just now getting healthy. And Mekhi Wingo has been one of the best defensive tackles ever at LSU. So that's going to be a really, really brutal matchup going into a road environment.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about too, is that offensive line. Okay, so we have this offensive line coach Kennedy, and he's kind of a transplanted offensive line coach that used to be a tight end coach. So that's one of Pittman's boys, brought him over from Georgia, and he just isn't. I mean, we looked at the recruits. So recruiting offensive linemen, I think we don't have any in the next class. None. You can't. I mean, there's no way your program. We got 3.
Yeah.
And
we got 3 3-star recruits coming in.
3-star recruits. So we're missing some of these, good recruits that you're going to have on that offensive line to be able to be 2 deep, 3 deep, maybe in these key positions on offense. So we've been running. Just running over Kennedy and also Dan Enos for these play calls. So from your perspective, you watched the game against BYU. We have KJ Jefferson, 240-pound quarterback. You see the play sets where he's in the shotgun formation with 4th and inches. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so ironically, LSU was in the same spot versus Mississippi State, and they don't sneak either. And it drives LSU fans crazy, and it costs them an early touchdown versus Mississippi State. Yeah, I don't understand, especially now you see at the NFL, the highest level of football, okay? The team that you cannot stop with the quarterback sneak is the Eagles. And what do the Eagles have? They got a 240-pound quarterback and an all-world center. What does Arkansas have? Well, before the season, everyone said Bo Limmer's the best center in the country. And then you have a 240-pound quarterback who honestly plays a lot like Jalen Hurts. They're built they're carbon copies of each other. They even wear the same jersey number. Now, Jalen is obviously a far superior player, but still, I don't know why you don't do it. And you go back to the 4th and 1 call. There's so many film things that was just so bad about that. Latham didn't fire off the football. He was late getting off the snap. And it's harder. I'm sure some of you played the game. It's harder to fire off on 4th and short when you're in shotgun, because you are very cognizant of not committing a false start penalty, right? Because if you commit a false start penalty, it's 4th and 6 instead of 4th and 1, and so on and so on. He fired off late, and that allowed the play to get blown up, and that's what happened there. But yeah, to your point, it's a really good point about offensive line recruiting. It's harder to get offensive linemen in the transfer portal. You can find guys to catch a football at any level. You just can, right? You can go get some ball catchers, right? I know what I said earlier about Armstrong and Tesla. They're good players. You can't go get an offensive lineman from Hillsdale and him be able to play SEC football. It just doesn't work like that. It's a completely different sport. And right now, Arkansas's offensive line is just ass. Honestly, they're really that bad. And look, LSU's offensive line is pretty solid. They're starting to get their footing. That a little bit of a rough game against Florida State. Well, Florida State's got top 5 defensive line in the country. So, and to even go deeper from an Arkansas perspective, this all started when Brad Davis left Arkansas for LSU, and Brad Davis, of course, was and he had to make that move. He's from Baton Rouge, and LSU, of course, is LSU. So, and Brad's been, for the most part, pretty good at LSU, but he also has 5 stars in some of those spots. So that really does help.
So taking this comment here from Justin, are you a little bit worried that Arkansas can come in there and get the dub?
Yeah, Arkansas can win this game. I don't look. This can be a discussion that you guys have on a different podcast, because I don't watch Arkansas football as closely as you guys do, right? I just do a film study, when the game ends, and I watch the games when I watch them. But I am in Arkansas group chats with people that love Arkansas football as much as you guys. And there is a growing belief that it is something that Sam Pittman is doing in close games, because Arkansas has just lost a lot of these close games. Now, some Arkansas fans will chalk it up saying, well, we're just Arkansas. It's just bad luck, if you will. Maybe it is something Sam Pittman's doing. I'm interested in what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, we don't really know, because if you look at the LSU games, the last 3 years, we lost by, it's been separated by 3 points each time. 3 points each, each of the last 3 years. So I think everybody gets up for that game. But like you said, is it some critical decisions being made late? Because close games are decided late. You know what I'm saying? So that could be a possibility. Like you said, we've been talking about our coaching situations and stuff like that, because everyone talks about those things when we lose. When we winning, it's all good. But when you lose, that's when people start to bring the microscope out. So you could be absolutely correct with that, that assessment.
Yeah. And look, some of it is, here's one thing I will say, if you are an Arkansas fan listening to this. The decision to go for it on 4th down is the right one. Okay, you don't come at me. Well, we should punt and play field position. Get out of here with that. Come on, you don't tell a locker room we can't get a 4th and inches. Come on, you've got to be able to just get that yard. And there are a lot of other things that happened in that BYU game that was just bad luck. The fake field goal being a barely delay game. There's so much crap that happened. And obviously, you look at the LSU game last year, the big thing is you caught a huge break that all the LSU team had the flu, and they had the biggest regular season win since our 2019 season, beating Alabama. So you had a little bit of a hangover. And, they obviously iced the field before the game. That was still so hilarious to me. But now, it's kind of a similar spot. LSU is in a spot where they're on the ascent, and Arkansas is in a spot where this honestly becomes the biggest game of their season. And that's why there's a piece of me that thinks this game will be close.
Okay. All right. We like that. So are there any areas of concern for you on the LSU team?
Yeah. So let's start with the offensive side of the football. LSU is a really good offense. This offense, even in the loss versus Florida State, their yard per play numbers are way better than last year. Their EPA numbers are way better. Red zone efficiency has gone down just a little bit, but overall, this team is just clicking on all cylinders. They have an alpha wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, who's really good, and they have some other receivers that are starting to come into their own. This offensive line is pretty solid. The running back room is really good. And the most important thing is Jaden Daniels. Jaden doesn't turn the football over, but against Arkansas last year, he had 2. That was the most he had in a game last year. And he's just a nasty dual threat quarterback. You got to keep your pass rush lane integrity. There was a huge third down conversion that Keaton Slovis, who probably runs a 5.6 40, was able to pick up with his legs. So you got to be careful with Jaden's legs. He is a great runner, and he is near Lamar level when it comes to running. He is that special of a scrambler. And obviously defensively, LSU, we mentioned it earlier, the secondary has been up and down, especially now that Greg is kind of out of the equation now. And there's going to have to be some guys step up. And obviously the last part of this is special teams. LSU special teams was probably the worst in the SEC last year, and now they have moved to being one of the better units in the SEC.
Okay. Gotcha.
Man, I hate y'all's luck, man, when it comes to hiring head coaches, man. Just thinking about how quickly y'all's coaches just find success is crazy. But leading off of that, I just want to ask, so what's the LSU's fan base's feel for Brian Kelly? Like, are y'all just 100% behind him right now? Like, what's going on with that? Because he seems like a pretty decent guy to me.
Yeah, they love him. Obviously, when you win the West in year 1 with what Orgeron left over with the program, they love him. He's obviously a different personality. There's obviously been, some clips on social media that people have had fun with, family or whatever, but he's a really good football coach. He's very well organized. He's driven. And obviously, you look at his legacy. He's a Hall of Famer. He's the all-time winningest coach at Notre Dame. But Brian Kelly is a big college football historian. The history of the game matters a lot to him. And he knows, in terms of history, he's got to win a national championship. And until he does that, I don't think he's going to be satisfied. He loves the Sabins. He loves the Eddie Robinsons, all the legendary coaches. He wants to be in that category. And the only way, obviously, you can be in that category is actually getting the big one.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I could possibly see it in y'all's future, especially this year. I feel like if it's any chance for y'all to get it, it'll be this year. But hopefully, the Hogs come through this weekend and derail y'all a little bit. So, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed.
Yeah, man.
Well,
Make it happen.
one of the biggest obstacles I see is Todd Wingo. That dude is more than Perkins, man. Wingo
Makai.
is Wingo. I can't remember his first name, but that guy's, man, living in the backfield, man. I'm like, this guy is amazing, man. I'm like, I watched the game he played. You guys had against Florida State, and I'm like, man, he's dominating the line. Just absolutely dominating. So with him and Perkins being on the same side of the line, man, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem. So that's the only thing that scares me about the game. But got another quick question here for you. When you think about the Arkansas offense, do you think it's a bigger problem, the offensive line or the offensive play calling?
Like I said, last year when I was starting the SEC channel, I did a play caller power ranking, and I actually had Kendall Browse number 3, only behind Heupel and Lane. And I thought Kendall was that good. Rush yards before contact is a big stat for me. That is a pretty interesting stat in the SEC where you have the best defensive linemen in the country. There was just so many wide open holes that Arkansas was able to run through. I highly recommend any Arkansas fan go back and look at the Ole Miss game from last year, right? And all of Rocket's big runs were essentially untouched runs. The holes were wide open, and he could really out-scheme teams. Now, I understand your comments are going to be filled with, well, why is this LSU fan telling us how good the former guy was? Well, he really was that good. Now, I'm not saying I like him personally, but I'll tell you, he was very good. And obviously, anytime you go in a scheme shift and your offensive linemen are used to playing one way and now you're playing another, and you got some guys moving around, and Latham, one play is your guard, and then the next play he's a tackle, and no matter where he is, he's committing penalties. It's a mess. And a good way to look at this is obviously the Mississippi State offensive line. They're a very experienced unit, right? They returned a lot of guys from last year. They suck because last year they were playing in the air raid, and this year Mississippi State has completely shifted their scheme. Now, any coach will tell you Arkansas's shift in the front isn't as drastic as Mississippi State going from air raid to now a far more balanced attack. But even then, anytime you shift scheme and your offensive linemen are used to playing one way, it just changes things. And I think one thing that is very underrated when it comes to the BYU struggles is how much of a struggle that Kent State game was. It was an issue. You guys watched the game. Kent State's team is awful. They have a new coach. Their whole offense went to Colorado. So the offensive coordinator at Kent State went to Colorado. So you got this new team, new coach, first-time head coach. And Kent State battled. You know, if they have just a little bit more quarterback, and if KJ didn't do Superman stuff in that Kent State game, you guys are rational people. That game is close. That game is very close against a really, really, really bad team. So, you know, you got to question everything right now with Arkansas scheme.
No lies detected.
None whatsoever.
No lies at all.
I just have no rebuttals, man. So
I know, right? I mean, he's speaking facts. That's hot fire. That's hot fire.
That's all I do, baby.
This.
That's all I do.
Oh no.
I will say this though. I will say this. I know it's a football show. I don't like the heat that Dave Van Horn gets. I think Arkansas fans are lunatics. Lunacy. Put them in a mental rehab facility if you think that Dave Van Horn isn't the guy for your program. Lunacy to think otherwise. And obviously must is must. So you have a lot of good things happening, and who knows what the football program holds in the future. Obviously, Sam's done, you know, a decent job recruiting this next class and all that stuff. But, you know, everybody wants a football program to win. Now, I want to drop a grenade, Bruno Mars style, on this conversation, okay? Because I don't know how much more time I have here. But what would you guys think about Dion at Arkansas?
Sign me up.
He needs
sign
day
me
of the
up.
week.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody would take Dion.
Yeah.
But you know, anybody would take him. They didn't want him when he was coming out of JSU, though. They didn't want him because they thought he was a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, but would you have hired him to a Power 5 job?
Absolutely.
Okay, but let's say this: before JSU, would you have taken him? No head coaching, no coaching. Okay,
No.
so
Not in the SEC, especially not.
Yeah.
okay, but now you, anyone in the chat, I'm not able to see a live chat or anything like that.
So
Would you
before you go any further, let me ask you this: are you okay with the Hog Pen coming up and talking to you?
What's the Hog Pen? I don't care.
All the people in
sure.
the comments, we just call them the Hog Pen. So if you're cool with that,
sure.
we're going to drop a link in the description. So if you got a question you want to ask Carter the Power, hey, come up and kick it with us. There is the link in the description.
We know who's going to call in.
Oh yeah, we already expecting. Hey, Tonka Tide.
Tonka Tide.
Hey,
Tonka
we
Tide
say
coming
his
in.
name 3 times. He show up like the Candy Man. Now go ahead and finish your thought. You were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, no, I would do the same thing. I would. Now, obviously, I think Sam deserves like the rest of the season. I don't think I think Dion stays another year at Colorado. I do, but yeah, obviously there's a Jerry Jones connection, and now that it's out, with Wally Hall going on Feinbaum yesterday saying what he said, it's just out there now. And look, I met Hunter Yurachek a few times. I actually saw him in the airport a few weeks. I think it was about a month ago. I saw him in the airport in Chicago. Talked to him for a little bit, and I think obviously it would be an audacious move. It would be a bold move, but I'm down with it. I think at this point, Arkansas fans are just understanding that you need to do something truly transcendent to get the football program going. And about to say something that's actually damning to myself. And this is going to hurt whoever's watching this. And I was going to say, I just want you to be ready for it because I am part of this. This is not an LSU perspective. I played football at El Dorado High School, okay? Arkansas high school football doesn't produce Power 5 Division I SEC football players. They just don't. Yeah. Okay? It's just, you gotta live with that, all right? You don't produce the volume needed to win at an elite level. Sure, every now and then you got an elite player coming out of state. You got a Hunter Henry here or this player there, whatever.
Traylon Burks.
But yeah, obviously Traylon Burks. Yeah, most recently. But also Traylon Burks was a top 100 guy. Like he was the rare blue chip recruit. Yeah. It's hard, man. It's really, really, really hard because you just don't get the same volume of players.
Absolutely agree with that. So we got somebody from the Hog Pen coming on.
Yeah, go on.
We got Woo Pig 0-0 on the line with us.
Fellas.
Hey, ask your question, boss. Ask your question.
All right. Hey man, I just got a few questions. First I want to tap in and say, man, I salute everything y'all doing for the Razorback fam. I know we really don't have too many podcasts, man, so appreciate what y'all doing for the community. But man, I just had one question, man, as far as the game go this week. What do you say will be the most important thing to stop the LSU offense? Is it Jaden McDaniels? Is it his legs or is it his passing? Because I knew he threw for like 300 passing yards last week. So, would you say we have to stop his legs or his passing first?
That's So you don't want Jaden's legs to beat you. He is really good, and I know I compare him to Lamar as a runner. He really is. I mean, just go look at his best runs. It is majestic. And it's a different style than how KJ runs. Like KJ's going to bowl you over. But Jaden runs north of 21 miles per hour. That's pretty elite. That's, Jamar Chase level speed. And he's special. And obviously Malik Neighbors is his top guy. So you got to stop those two guys first. And I think that's the biggest key. If I was a DC, I don't want Jaden's legs to beat me. And right. Mississippi State let that happen. And he's gonna pop off a few runs on you every now and then because he really is that good of a runner. But the key thing is obviously, just stay in your rush lanes and live with the results of him throwing the football.
Right. I want to pitch in and chime in, man, of how I feel about the team right now, man. I just think I didn't see anything that was really eye-popping that we really have to fix right now. Is set aside from the O-line, man. I think that's what's eating at everybody. But man, I just think once Rocket Sanders once Rocket Sanders get back and we find the identity offensively, man, and kind of get those play calls in a little quicker, man, so we can hit home on those big plays, we might have a chance. But defense they showed they can hold their own, and we got the DBs to play a little man coverage. So everything is looking okay for right now, but we gotta, like I said, we gotta weather the storm pretty much. But I'm gonna jump off it and let you guys finish the podcast. But hey, I salute everything y'all doing for the Razorback community, man. So
Hey, appreciate you,
Hey, man.
Thanks for
Hey,
tapping in with
appreciate you
us.
tapping in, man.
for sure.
All right. Well, we gonna bring up our guy who contributes on a regular basis.
There you go.
Tucker Ty's in the building. How you doing today?
I'm telling you, if I was doing any better, I'd have to clone myself. And I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of your channel. I subscribe, and my favorite part of your channel is the film study. And thank you for breaking down Arkansas film. I get the greatest enjoyment out of that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. So, oh look, there's two of me now. Look at this.
we just switching you around, give you a center spot.
Oh, I don't know if I deserve that at all. But yeah, no, Taka Todd, I really appreciate that, man. And the key thing, obviously, I'm not a coach, and I played, but I didn't play at a high level. Always go in when you watch any film study, and I always put a little disclaimer in there. As much as I, commented on the offensive line, Danny Enos and all that stuff, this stuff's hard. I mean, it's hard to play Power 5 Division I football. I've been lucky to be on the sidelines for a lot of SEC games, and the speed of which the game moves is just absolutely insane. It's absurd, honestly. Right. It's a collision. So this stuff's hard. It's hard to call plays. It's hard to do that. And always know that, there's so many different factors that go into every single play call. And those coaches are always going to know more than me, not only because they just know more about football than me, they know their team better than I do. I'm just coming in with an objective opinion on how I see it. So I appreciate that, but always understand that when you're watching any kind of film study that anybody knows, is because you'll never, ever, it's impossible to know as much as what the coaches know.
Right, yeah. I actually used to coach. I was a defensive coordinator for a semi-pro football team, so I know exactly what you mean, But I still enjoy the breakdowns because you're always spot on, so I enjoy that. Yeah. So here's the question for you. What does Dan Enos bring to the table that Kendall Briles did not?
Okay. So here's a little bit of behind the scenes on Kendall, okay? His system, the Briles system, it's hard to know the system. Like, I remember reading and went on a deep dive on Twitter, and I spoke to a coach about this. Like, it is impossible for everyone to know, like, every single call, even players that played for him. Like, there's like a sworn to secrecy, like, kind of thing that Kendall just knows the offense, right? He was just really freaking good. Obviously, they played at a fast pace. One thing he did a really good job of is showing you one thing and doing something else. And when you really break it down, the best offensive minds in football do exactly that. They give you the same look, but they actually run something different out of it. And in fact, at the high school level, there's a lot of high school OCs who are really good at that. Now, obviously, college football is way more complex. You're in high school, you're not going up against Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo, and those guys can, tear apart a play. The issue is Arkansas runs a lot of these, just to not get into all footballese here, they run a lot of these 45-degree angle runs that are very easy to point out what they're doing. Okay. I feel DeBinion and AJ Green in particular aren't the absolute best with that running style. I think Green's a little bit of a better fit for how Enos wants to run his offense. And I obviously DeBinion for me is not really bringing a lot to the table. I think he's a fine player. I just don't think he's not Rocket. But even when Rocket gets back, I want to see some of the stuff that Briles did, right? Which I felt was a little bit more downhill, if you ask me. But that's just how I see it. Obviously, that's a very simple breakdown of it. But it also comes down to this. When you look at a coordinator, ask yourself, how many times has this coordinator been elite? And for Dan Enos, he has been more ordinary than he's been elite up to this point in his career. Now, he's not bad. He wasn't bad at Maryland. He wasn't bad in Miami, Alabama, any of those other places. He was elite in 2015. I think a lot of you remember that offense, a very underrated offense. But I think it's static. It's a little stale, if you ask me, and it feels a little behind the times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He's suffering from what I call the Jimbo Fisher disease, where he still thinks it's 2010, with a lot of his play calls. So that leads me to this question. Let's pretend that you are Arkansas's offensive coordinator. Let's just pretend, okay? And you're going up against a very, very, very talented LSU defense. And by the way, y'all secondary may be the weakest part of the team, but it's still a pretty strong secondary, if you ask me, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Granted, Mississippi State was dumpster juice. Let's just go ahead and say what it is, right?
Yeah.
But y'all didn't allow them to do anything. It was like they almost had to ask the defense's permission. May we please snap the ball now? It was one of the most dominating things I've ever seen in my life. So you're the offensive coordinator for Arkansas. What would you do to kind of help your team succeed against what is a better defense than what you have offensively?
Well, I wish I can answer that question truthfully, but I know the Woo Pig podcast has a wide reach, so I do not want to, in any shape, form, or fashion, aid Arkansas football in fixing what they need to do versus my dear beloved LSU Tigers. Now, I will say this, like I said a minute ago, I would never think that anybody would actually take anything from what I do. I'm not as smart as any of those guys, okay? So don't think that. I just don't want it to come back to me saying, well, dadgummit, the LSU guy was giving helps to the pigs. People will excuse anything for a loss. And I see G. Holmes is like taking some notes right now. It's like, well, maybe we can get something out of this, man.
Yeah, I'm paying attention.
But no, here's what I would say. Okay. And this is just state the obvious situation here. KJ is doing too much right now. All right. And as much as my diatribe was earlier and how much I love KJ Jefferson, okay, he tried to do way too much versus BYU. And there were some things open in that game that he missed. And then I felt like he began to press after he missed some of the things that I saw. And he then threw the pick. He tried to, Drew Brees up and down the linebacker, and the linebacker sank far enough. It's a really hard throw to make. I mean, I would say like 10 NFL starters make that throw consistently. It's hard. It's a very hard throw, especially when the protection is pressed up against you. What people forget, though, is a play before it, that exact thing happened. So he said, well, now I'm behind the sticks. I need to make all the yards back. And that's not smart. That's trying to do way too much. And you can't play quarterback that way. And one thing I like about Jaden Daniels, as when it comes to the SEC's best quarterback, I think it's neck and neck between those two. Before the season, though, I did have KJ better than Jaden. Last week did change some things for me, though. It did, because I was like, wow, KJ, are you really meshing well with this offense? The Kent State game took a lot out of him. I mentioned that in the Kent State Film Study. I'm sure you saw that, Tonka Todd. I was like, God, dude, this is a lot of big hits. And the downside of making some of the big throws he made versus Kent State is thinking you always have to make NFL types of throws like he did in the Kent State game. And you don't. Most college football games, yeah, Joe Burrow could do it. Yeah, Caleb Williams could do it. But KJ can make some of those throws. It's just there were some in that BYU game he just flat out missed, and that is a little concerning for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems that this year Arkansas really, when the offense struggles, then it seems that the defense takes the onus that they have to make the play, right? That they have to do something. And that's when you get guys out of position, because Arkansas is still we're still pretty young on defense. And so there's going to be some cases of bad eye discipline. Case in point, the trick play for BYU, right? That's just poor eye discipline and the safety biting when he should have stayed back for jump coverage. And things like that will happen, and those are coachable things that can be fixed, and teachable things for the kids. Make sure you trust your eyes. But it's almost like everybody's trying to step up to take up the slack that the offense isn't provided. And Kate, what you said is prime example. KJ thinking, I have to make this throw, right?
Yeah.
And and it all goes back to the offensive line. And one thing before I go, because I got a feeling somebody's going to say my name 3 times and I'm going to find myself in a weird situation. It's this. Good. When Coach Kennedy came over from Georgia, he was Sam Pittman's GA for offensive line, right? Okay, so he comes and he's given the tight end job at Arkansas. While he was the tight ends coach at Arkansas, the tight end position was the thinnest and weakest position on the team. He gets promoted to offensive line. 3 years later, what are we looking at? The offensive line is the thinnest and weakest position on the team. Let that sink in. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate your show. I love you, fam. And I'm out.
All right, Tonka time.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate Tonka for tapping in with us, man. We got one more question for you, Carter. We're going to let you get on with your day. We know you're busy, man.
Let's hear
it. And the question is, actually, we want to do a roundtable prediction for the LSU Arkansas game. And we're going to start with you. What's your prediction as far as the score?
Yeah, I think it'll be somewhere in like the 34-24 kind of range. That's about where I have it right now. We've not talked about Travis Williams, how excited I've been that Arkansas, of course, has an all-black defensive coaching staff. It's really good. It's really good for, progress with the growth of black coaches in Division I Power 5 football. So he's done great. I think for the most part, he's been pretty good. You look at the short fields that they had to deal with, and, he's been more aggressive, which is something that the Arkansas defense desperately needed. And I think it's easier to play that style with players instead of, doing what Barry Odom did and allowed everyone to just keep running on you. And that's not a good recipe for success. Really looking forward to seeing how this defense matches up with the LSU offense. Dwight McGlothern going up against his old team again. I think Arkansas's corners are probably the most underrated unit on this team. Singletary and McGlothern, I think, are pretty good players.
Yeah.
Lorando had a little bit of a tough game, and maybe it's a bounce back for him. But I just think LSU's the better team. I do. I think, obviously, Arkansas is going to fight through. I could see them, getting a backdoor cover late in this one. Mm-hmm. But for right now, I think LSU's a better team. There's a lot of bias here because obviously I need LSU to win this game in the worst way. I can't have all my Arkansas buddies getting on me. But I think Brian Kelly, you get a coaching advantage there, and LSU just got the better roster, and they win this game comfortably by 10.
Okay. G, what's your projections, man?
Man, it's a tough one because just coming off of that bad, I still got a bad taste in my mouth no matter how much I rinse it. So it's kind of hard for me to even speak these words. But I got to keep it real. I predicted us to go on 11-1 this year, so I predicted a win against LSU, and I can't stop now. So with the with the last 3 years, being such a close game, I think it'll be close just because of the nostalgia of this matchup. So I'm gonna say Arkansas 28-17.
So you picking Arkansas to win by 11, 28-17. Okay,
Yeah.
Deezy?
All right, y'all Hog fans, just buckle up because y'all about to be mad at me. One thing about me, man, I'm a realist. I'm kind of the stat guy. I look at all the different factors that we got to go up against. One, we in Death Valley at nighttime.
At nighttime,
we dealing with a team that's broken right now. We got players on Twitter, reading fans' tweets. We got, just a unit that's just not looking great. And to be honest, I think that our offensive pieces do not like the scheme, just based on body language and stuff that's going on. We got Pittman saying that KJ was a little banged up last game. If you look at some of the option plays, it was a couple plays where I felt like KJ could have kept it, but maybe that injury was nagging him. So just looking at all the stuff, I see maybe it's a close game in the first quarter, but if LSU gets any momentum, this game could get ugly. So I don't see our offense scoring much, and I can see LSU's offense scoring a lot. So I'm going to say LSU 38, Arkansas 14. I hate to say it, and I'm so sorry, Hog fans. Y'all going to hate me, but I see this one getting ugly, and I'm going to just have low expectations. So if we do win, I'm going to be super excited, but I got to keep it real.
Man, I don't like that. I'm like the guy on Belly, man. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. So, Carter, just for some background here, I picked the Hogs to go 7-5 at the beginning of the season before we were actually doing this. I picked them to go 7-5. But the issue is I'm never going to bet against the Hogs to lose. In my mind, I feel like we're going to win every game. So, I actually don't think they're going to beat LSU. I actually picked them in my 7-5 prediction to lose to LSU. But I'm a Hog.
I'm a Hog.
And so, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. Y'all going to have 28 points. Let me look over here at my paper. Y'all going to have 28 points. And we're going to get a last minute touchdown. KJ going to take us down there. And we're going to win the game. 31-27, and we bringing it back.
We're bringing the boot back home, baby.
We bringing the boot back.
This. Let me defend myself a little bit. I'm a younger fan. I came in the end of Bielema, Chad Morris era, so I don't got as much hope as some of these guys.
He don't know the real rivalry.
I don't know why, but Deezy's kind of become my favorite out of all of you.
I take it back. Never mind. I take it
back. Can't quite put a finger on it there, but yeah, no, I think it will be competitive, and hopefully LSU takes care of business, and hopefully it's crazy because like Jarvis Landry is one of my favorite LSU Tigers of all time, and he made just the most absurd catches versus Arkansas. So hopefully Malik Neighbors is doing the same thing, man. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your community. I always love seeing different Arkansas, podcasts pop up, and thank you guys. It was an honor being a part of this.
Man, we appreciate you coming.
We definitely appreciate you coming on, man. All the Woo Pig family, tap in to Power Hour LSU. As well as his SEC channel. The information is in the description of the video. So check that out. Give him a subscribe. He makes great content. So definitely reach out to him. And we appreciate you for coming on. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah.
So where are we going in Little Rock next time I'm up there? Where's the spot?
Hey, I tell you what you do after we get off of here. After we end the show, stay on for a second, man, and we'll exchange some information. That way you can hit us up when you get here.
Yeah. Where's this? I got to be honest. I do, and this y'all mind if I give a free shout out here at the end?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
My favorite restaurant, maybe in the entire South, is actually in Little Rock, and it's a sushi place called Kamiri.
Yeah.
Have you had it before?
Yeah, absolutely.
God, it's fire. Like, am I overrating it? Be honest. They're not listening to this.
Okay, I tell you what. If you like sushi, because I love it. One of
No,
my
you do?
favorite, the one you're talking about is good, but I have one that's actually a little bit better than that one. It's called Sky Sushi, and it's up off of it's called Sky Sky Sushi, and it's up there off of Highway 10, and it's a really good one. It's a really good one. But yeah, when you're in Little Rock, man, we'll switch our information up, man. You hit me up and we'll go get some sushi.
Yeah, man, I'm all the way down with it, man. And you're in Little Rock, G Holmes, and Odie, where you?
I'm in Kansas City, but hey, it's a 6-hour drive, so it's nothing.
Yeah, and DZ, where are you?
Hey, I'm in Little Rock, and I'm a little younger, so man, if we could do sushi, but I'm more of a Twin Peaks guy, you know. I like
Oh my God!
Just keeping it real.
Out of nowhere, we're talking about high dining and like, no, I need women dressed as lumberjacks serving me lemon pepper chicken wings. That's what we need. I like Twin Peaks too. I'm a chicken wing fanatic, so we can do that. We're talking about sushi. Like, no, let's go get a pitcher of beer. Let's go do that.
It's the Arkansas way, man.
There you go. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Okay, cheers.
All right. G, you take us out, baby.
Hey, with that, I said what I said, and we out.
Oh my God! I'm a hog. 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 You can tell by the way that we ball. I'm a hog. Look at my phone, you see 50 missed calls. I'm a hog. Always winning, we can't settle for a loss. I'm a hog. The natural shake coming straight out of Arkansas. I'm a hog. From Little Rock, Pine Bluff down the bend. I'm a hog. We break bread with Sam Walton in the clean. I'm a hog. We go hard. This where the hogs at. Representing the stands, chilling, wearing our hog hat. I'm a hog.
Down in the rock sports, yeah, we big on it. I mean, we live on it, and we put our kids on it. You need some.